Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of my impromptu series featuring 3 speakers. The Acora SRC-2, which I featured in part 1. The Magico S7, which I featured in part 2. And then in part 3 today, I'm going to feature the Spatial Audio X3. And again, I'm just focusing on these 3 speakers only because they came in at 3MA Audio, the local dealership here in Houston, at the same time. And I thought that each one of them warranted a video and a comparison, because these are all speakers that I think a lot of people, it resonates with a lot of people for different taste profiles. So it's not so much a comparison of which one's best of the 3, but showing that all of these 3 speakers have some merit for different tastes and different budgets that I think it warrants giving you a little more insight. And like I did in part 1, we had the Acora representative there to share even more details about that design and what makes Acora unique. We had not a presentation per se, but I have featured the Magico facility visit that 3MA did. I couldn't go on that visit, but I featured that, their video from that, and then I shared some of my comments with their design and things that I noticed. And in this one, I'm going to talk about the Spatial, where I kind of get a deeper dive and my hands on it for the first time. I usually just have exposure at shows to spatial audio, so this gave me a little more insight, time I could look at the drivers, set it up myself, play my own tracks. And again, I'm going to have music tracks in probably part 4, and then in part 5 I will talk about more of the sound quality, comparisons between the 2 and which taste and rooms each one would resonate with, in my opinion, based on what I heard. I like to save that for last, because when I provide music clips, I don't want to color your impressions ahead of time. Let you just hear what you hear. And again, you can't hear everything, so that's why I'm going to supplement it. But it will at least give you some taste and kind of flavor which ones maybe you want to audition yourself and dive deeper into. So today, I'm going to showcase the Spatial, and a couple things I wanted to point out is that really cool with this X3, I think that's kind of their top of the line. It's like $10,000. But what's nice is that this comes with a powered, basically a powered sub portion of it. It's open baffle bass. So what's important about that and noteworthy is that if you think about open baffle speakers, and especially open baffle bass, your room is basically your cabinet. And so even though the drivers, you look up the specs and yes, it's suitable for open baffle configuration, it's still not the same as a driver with in a cabinet built for the exact cubic inches that it's designed to operate optimally in and whatnot for like typical subs. So having the adjustment that the Spatial Audio has for the gain, I found really important and useful for helping tailor it to the room that those spatials were put in, because at first it was overwhelming, and then when I dialed it back, it was too much. So getting that fine-tuned adjustment is really important, and it's quite frankly, it's why I use the mini DSP with these, because these don't have any gain adjustments here. And when you've made it to the sub, the mini DSP obviously is going to give you plenty more adjustments and would even help the Spatial even more. But what's cool is that they give you that adjustment ability, especially in the bass, to help tailor it to the room, and it does make a tangible difference. The other thing, just real quick, you always gotta, when you set up these speakers, sometimes we're setting up so fast to want to hear at 3MA, you got to make sure you do your calibrations and stuff before you start listening, because first thing we started listening to the Spatials and we heard, man, that's a nice tweeter, but, and it really is, that AMT tweeter is really nice, but it sounded, no, this doesn't sound right though. And sure enough, we forgot to turn on the powered portion of the X3 bass module. And then once we did, it obviously sounded right again. But, and also with the Magico S7s, the first time I sat down and listened to them, I was like, this sounds terrible. What is going on? And then I played Sophie Zelmani, Oh Dear, and then I realized exactly what had happened. Just when the speakers have been set up and all the electronics, the left and right have been swapped, and so that threw off some of the sound quality and made some anomalies that I just didn't sound right to me. So again, don't make snap judgments. Always think what could have gone wrong in the setup. is the speakers out of phase, all these other things I just mentioned. It can happen to anybody. I've showcased it in rooms, at shows where people make mistakes, dealers make mistakes. I've made the mistake. You're going to make the mistake if you haven't already or haven't even noticed yet. There have been times when people have turned in speakers at 3MA that have been traded in, and their terminals in the back have been wired out of phase, and they've been listening to it for decades out of phase. There was one I can remember in particular. And actually my Wisdom Audio Adrenalines that I bought, and I got them super cheap. Well, the reason is that doctor, all these years, he didn't know what he had, because the top module was wired to the bottom terminals and vice versa. And once I got them, I was like, this doesn't sound right. And then I figured out what had happened. I realized all these years he had been thinking that the adjustments he was making to the top module were going to the bottom, and he just never really cared enough to diagnose that. So again, setup and diagnosing issues when you don't hear something that sounds right is one of the macro takeaways I just want to share with you. Anybody can make mistakes like that. So without further ado, though, here's a more in-depth look at the spatial audio and the quality of construction behind it. Really nice speaker. Okay guys, closer look at the Spatial Audio X3. It's open baffle, but there is obviously a baffle, very thick. It looks like the layers of Baltic birch. These are quite heavy. I want to show you something. These are powered, and then there's a variable gain down here, which is very important for open baffle. Since the room is your cabinet, you need to adjust sometimes the gain on that. Very high-end tweeter, AMT, not cheap at all. You can see the quality of the crossover parts, everything is exposed. But it's a handsome package. You know, it's a wide baffle, but wide drivers, not a lot of extra space. Attractive speakers are going to be polarizing on looks to different taste, but yeah, this finish looks nice. And let's go ahead and listen to a few tracks. I'll probably put that in a separate video though.